Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation about Universal Preschool. This was created by Nifan, Nidhi Matthew, Vutran, and Kyle Alpernas.
Universal preschool is defined as the government-funded preschool programs that use public funding, usually by the state, to provide equal opportunity and access, as well as ensure high-quality preschool, which is available to every child from 2 to 5 years old in the United States, regardless of the family incomes, children ability, and other factors. As many educators, policymakers, and parents agree on the merits of the universal preschool, there are also a lot of concerns and ideas against it. When considered pros and cons, the controversy is ongoing and remains heated in both sides.
The Universal Preschool movement began in France in 1834 in schools referred to as écoles maternelles. These schools were initially created with the purpose of serving as childcare and to provide schooling for low-income families. But their success in preparing younger children for the classroom environment eventually made them transform into the staple of the French educational system. Currently, these programs are now 3 years and they're offered to all French children. Their purpose is to bring children to a moyenne, which means a middle ground. And since France is such a diverse country with children from all different backgrounds, the universal preschool programs have been really successful in bringing kids all to a universal fluency of French before they enter K-5 education. Soon, many other countries began to follow in France's footsteps. The United States' take on the Universal Preschool Program was the Head Start program. It was created by Lyndon B. Johnson in 1965, and this is the first publicly funded preschool program that was aimed to promote readiness of young children from low-income families for elementary school education. However, this program is unfortunately severely underfunded, and only 31% of the eligible children from the ages of 3 to 5 are now able to attend due to these shortages. So let's look at the timeline of events. In the 1830s, France started the universal preschool movement, and in 1965, President Lyndon B. Johnson creates Head Start, which is the first publicly funded education for preschool in America. But unfortunately, even in the 1960s, only 10% of our nation's 3- and 4-year-olds were enrolled in this classroom setting due to the lack of funding for Head Start. So in the 1980s, a handful of states started their own version of a preschool program, mainly for students from low-income families. Continue, in 1985, Georgia becomes the first state to actually create a universal preschool program for all 4-year-old children, and Illinois takes this one step further in 2007 when it becomes the first state to develop a universal preschool for both 3-year and 4-year-olds. And finally, in 2011 and 2013, the Obama administration expresses its continued support for these universal preschool programs by actually putting federal money towards it and subsidizing these state initiatives. And these were both through the Race to Top Early Learning Challenge and the Preschool for All initiative, which prioritized preschool access for all American families.
When discussing the current status of the United States early childhood development programs, the first thing I want to do is compare us to other nations around the world. First off, I wanted to show that our United States enrollment rate is at 67% for ages 3 to 5, while the OECD nation's enrollment rate is at 71% and 85% for children ages 3 and 4 respectively. Another category to take into account is the spending. The United States spends 0.4% of the total GDP on early childhood development, while the OECD nations on average are spending 0.8% of the GDP. These two variables combined with some others have gotten the United States the third worst rated early childhood development program, only to be followed by Turkey and Switzerland with lower rated early childhood education programs. Next, I want to take a look internally and see how we've developed in recent years. Florida, Oklahoma, and Georgia have really led the way as being the 3 states that have exemplified how the U.S. should approach early childhood development. And it's with states like this that sort of drive the desire for other states to make it affordable and access to all children. Another positive thing to look at is the government opinion on how the early childhood development is going in a direction, and there's a general consensus that there's not necessarily enough affordable early childhood education. 82% of Republicans and 97% of Democrats believe that quality early education needs to be made more affordable. This combination, plus the fact that 79% of the general population wants to see Trump and Congress work together to advance the early childhood development agenda means that there is some progress and that there's a general consensus that something needs to happen, and it's not just on individual cities, but the government as a whole to make it happen. Lastly, I want to talk about two cities that have really shown good success in these early childhood development programs, being Washington, D.C. and New York City, which have almost universal early childhood development programs within each city, allowing more kids than ever to attend pre-K programs. Next, I want to talk about a specific incident where there has been much innovation and progress in how we're allowing students to attend these schools. In San Antonio, Texas, they have created a program where legislation got passed that 1/8 of each cent of sales tax would be taken and put to a fund that would allow the city to build schools and allow the students to have free education at these different locations, regardless of their parents' income. What they have created now is 4 state-of-the-art pre-K centers that have do-it-yourself outdoor learning classrooms and other interactive learning facilities to make these schools a few of the best schools around the city and even around the state. While none of this comes without critics, there have been people who have concerns whether these funds are going to the best use for these students or if they could really be used elsewhere. But for now, all of that's still up in the air, and there's a lot more discussions that are coming in the years to come when they see how the students from the very first classes have raised up to levels of 3rd grade and 4th grade. Since 2013, this program has served 8,000 students in 4 centers, while also awarding $8.5 million in grants to other pre-K centers.
Talk about the strengths, weakness, and opportunities and the threats of the universal preschool. In this slide, it shows to summarize all that aspects. Firstly, we are looking to the strengths. So it provides more short-term and long-term benefits to students, reduce the school segregation, increase the diversity in the classroom. Benefits is including the increase the cognitive function. Students can learn more soft skills and achieve the higher math and reading abilities. For long-term gains, is achieve the higher academic achievements, reduce the crime rates in our societies, and students with the pre-K school are more likely to get a better job with higher salaries. So in the picture on the right, it show the evidence for the long-term gain and short-term benefits from the universal preschool. Another opportunities is we can create a new and dynamic universal preschool by looking to the other models with all these implanted in the US. So by looking to the failed model, we can learn to avoid the mistake, and looking into the successful model, we can see the factor that lead to its success. So we try to implement this factor to create the new modern universal preschool. We look into the weakness. So some people believe that the long-term benefits are not reliable and maybe fade away as the time goes by. So in the figure, it shows for the pre-K preschool students in HESI. So at the end of the first pre-K years, the student in the program will have more academic skill gain than other students who are not in the program. But at the time progress, so at the end of the first grade, the student with no preschool experience gain more academic skills than the student who attend the HESI. We have maybe very low public support due to there's a lot of the failure of the preschool program in many states. So many people think that the universal school is not really the good choice because the public preschool should only have and provide benefit to the low income family and poor students the most.
Solution 1 related to funding. In order to solve the problem about merit of the universal preschool, all the parties involved need to collaborate together to come to an agreement or an effective method on providing sufficient funding as well as other resources. If the state and local community cannot bear the cost of universal preschool, federal government should intervene by provide funding while allow state flexibility to use the money in the most effective way, depending on their condition. For example, while New York City has the means to bear the cost of the program due to its high tax revenues from business investments, many states would not be able to bear such the high cost, and thus it is necessary that significant federal funding is invested in these universal preschool programs. In addition, a shifting in government investment and funding could be done as well. Policymakers can shift the funding from other aspects such as military, tax, welfare, etc. to grant more funding in universal preschool. For example, Indiana and Iowa states have transferred the funding from their welfare block grant to invest in early childhood program. California has also taken a significant amount of money from the tobacco race tax to fund for early childhood education. However, the implementation for this solution can face the disagreement from politicians and local community. The limited nature of budgets caused the difficulty to reach a compromise between federal, state, local community, or the financing of such preschools. Moreover, the universal preschool is an expensive program. A high quality of such program will come at a great cost, about $10,000 per student according to some research. However, inexpensive program would lead to a low quality program and ineffective results. Therefore, the debate will continue to go on with an unclear solution. Solution 2 related to improved resources. One of the factors which contribute to the success of preschool is the quality of teachers. By guiding existing preschool teachers to get at least bachelor degree or early childhood credentials and paying the reasonable salary to these teachers would be helpful to increase the workforce availabilities and the willingness to work in these preschools. Also, to ensure the quality of the program, quality resources for educating the kids should be made available to teachers. It is difficult for teachers to educate the children if they don't have the proper material to support their curriculum. Therefore, there should be an emphasis on providing good resources and support to educators. Additionally, it's necessary to build a new classroom or reuse the current qualified classroom in public and private school in order to make enough space to accommodate the intakes of students in the universal preschool programs. A set of benchmarks and standards must be established as well, and required the preschool to meet in order to stabilize the program's quality. This policy may include the maximum number of students in one classroom is just 20. So for this implementation, the challenge is the required cooperation between teacher, school, local community, and the government to operate it in a smooth way. Furthermore, large funding is needed to run this implementation without interruption. Solution 3 related to new methodology. The fade-out effect of universal preschool in the long-term benefits is one big concern. Solving the uncertainty would involve in trying new approaches to define the effectiveness of the program. Ongoing examination and evaluation are necessary and should be done continuously during and after pre-K through higher education level to ensure continued tracking in improvement of children learning gain. remains. Preschool provides a solid foundation of children's education, but it is just the first step. The benefit of preschool couldn't be verified if the learning experience from elementary school as well as higher education level are not considered. Coordination of preschool with elementary school and higher level is necessary to make sure an easy transfer process could be done and the curriculum is aligned so that children learning gains can flow forward smoothly. The challenges for this approach could be the time delay and searching for resources to fund such research on the merits of universal preschool program, and finding the best method to align the curriculum from preschool to elementary school education. Lack of the coordination of preschool and elementary school program in the current system would also pose as the challenge.
So as we've discussed, universal preschools tend to be a highly debated issue within educational policy. And in order to create a high-quality universal preschool program that adequately prepares our young children for the more structured learning environments of K-5 education, it's necessary that these programs are financed by a constant and adequate amount of state and government funding. We need to put in place dynamic and flexible funding models. Additionally, we have to increase the availability of resources and highly qualified educators for such programs. To make this happen, we need both public and legislative support. And thus, we have to prove that these programs work. We need to put in place methods that can accurately measure the quality and benefits of preschools, and additionally ensure that the benefits from these preschools are realized by creating a smooth transfer between the curriculums of both preschool and elementary school education. Lastly, as our nation continues to become more diverse, a universal preschool program will help accommodate children from a variety of backgrounds and allow them to reach fluency in the English language before they enter elementary school education.